Hello YouTube, this is Southern Wolverine welcoming you back to Operation Laythe, Episode 8. Alright, now Kerbal Space Program is starting to look ahead to its first interstellar mission here. In order to do that, I think we want to get this nuclear engine first. Well, the atomic engine. We could do an interplanetary mission to someplace like Duna without it. But it would be way easier if we had it. That means we're looking at another moon mission in order to get some more science. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to build us a little bit different lander than last time. That would work just fine. Well, till I almost crashed it anyway. But other than that, it worked just fine. However, in the interest of keeping things fresh, I thought, why don't we mix it up? And we're going to make instead a lander arrangement, a mission profile, if you will, that is based on the, American Apollo missions. So we're going to, this will give us a chance to use docking ports in the Kerbal Space Program. And if you haven't seen that before, I'll show you how that works. Very useful thing. This is not really necessarily the greatest or most interesting use of such a thing. But it is, it gives us a chance to do it regardless. Alright, so now the other thing I want to do, since this mission is going to involve docking, where are my RCS fuel tanks? Here we go. I want to put a couple of these on. These are just the RCS fuel tanks. These are the larger versions, so I'll just throw 2 of those on there. And now, at this stage, it's a lot more important for me to figure out where my center of mass is when I go to control this. So I think what I'll do for this one, in order to use, well, okay, I guess we only have the one kind of thruster. I'd like to have the linear thrusters, but what I'm gonna, anyway, so what I'll do is I'll take these clusters, try to space them more or less evenly on either side of the center of gravity, center of mass, and equally space them around the spacecraft. So there, that should be all it takes. Now we are RCS enabled. So now the tricky part ends up being this, where we have to put a lander here that we can put in stack with our command pod, our command capsule, and still be able to get it. So this is the docking port we're going to use to grab it. We're going to stick with the Apollo inspiration and stick a 2-man lander can. Also a new part for us. We'll stick that right on underneath there. And now what this will do, well, here, let me try. Actually, do I have the part unlocked yet? Oh, never mind. I was going to say I'm going to try something new, but forget it. I don't even have to explain my thought because I don't have the part unlocked. Now this should work. That this will actually stay with this when we detach the whole command module section. But we should be able to go in and manually use this as if this were a docking port and let this go. That used to work. I hope it still works. Otherwise, this is not going to be a super exciting mission. But so that should work for us as a disconnect, and we'll have to kind of let that float away. I think we're going to end up. What to do? Let's see. Oh, I'm so distracted here. Alright, now, one difference from Apollo is I think I want to be able to return this lander can back to the planet as well. You know what, now I'm even second guessing myself more. Here, let's do this. Nope, that's too small. Oh, here we go. We can use this guy. Will that fit a normal decoupler on top of him? Or a docking port, rather? Yeah. That'll work just fine. Assuming I get it linked up to the right place. Come on. There we go. Alright, so we'll just send one guy down. Sorry, the rest of you. The other two of you are just going to have to watch from space. That's okay. This will be an easier vehicle to land anyway. So, let's go ahead and slap some science on there. We'll use this communications array just because we haven't used it before. Bam. Oh, and you know what? I can disconnect this when I'm done. Oh, you know what? I want to turn that around so that I can make a stair for the guy to get out. Okay, and we'll just put one of these on underneath. You know, we may not even need that much. But, okay. You know what? Let's get a little crazy. Let's put some extra fuel tanks on our lander. Like so. Since it occurred to me that this guy's getting a little bit tall on us. Well, tall for its, you know, wheelbase, if you will, its landing gear spread. We're going to extend the landing base. Okay, so let's see, I'm just going to line up the bottom of the gear to that black stripe so that I can get them lined up on both sides. Like so. And for good measure, we'll throw one on the end. Okay. And even with those extra tanks, these extra bits will give us some things to stick solar panels and batteries and things onto. So it's not like we're, going totally crazy here. But I think I'm still going to be able to make do with just a single engine. Here, I guess, I'll do this. I'll put two little ones on the outsides. And that should be plenty of thrust. This won't be very heavy. And now let's start attaching science to it. Plus, if we find that we have extra fuel, we might get the opportunity to do a quick hop to a different biome. So we'll just snap that on there. Ooh, do I want to bother putting RCS on this? Yeah, I think I will. After the near flubs of the previous landings. Stick that bad boy on there. We've got some new of these solar arrays. So we'll put them on like that. Not sure I like that. We'll use the other one. This one is the rectangular one, the Series 1, I believe. And the Series 2 is the long, skinny one. And we'll move this strut over to give ourselves a little more space when that deploys. Okay. Now we want to attach some further science. Science, I said. Thank you. I'm saying this as if somebody else is doing this. To hide my own ridiculousness here. Oh, I should put a communications antenna on here. Not because I think I'll need it, but it just seems right. There we go. Alright, so now you get a thermometer stuck on the side of you. We'll do, just for balance sake, put two of these. So we don't really want to carry the weight of these. We'll get the science out of them when we're done with them. So we'll just stick them out on the outriggers here. We're still radially symmetric, so we should be good. Now I put that RCS fuel on there so that I can come in, and just like the other one, put a number of thrusters on here. And really, for as small as this thing is, 8 thrusters is probably way more than I need. But just want to make sure it's balanced. You know what, now I gotta move my comms array, darn it. Oh, you know what? I put a second one on here. I don't need you. There, get lost. Okay. And that's about it, I guess. I think we're gonna need, come on. So we'll have our disconnect here. We'll use this nice adapter to put a large launch vehicle underneath it. And there we go. Well, we're gonna strut this together real good, of course. Let's just start down here. Actually, we're gonna have to come off at an angle like this so I don't accidentally tie it to the lander. Oh, I lost my symmetry. Not paying attention. There we go. And I'm paranoid about this coming off, so let's put another 2 on there. So that's going to act as our main structural link between the launch stage and this upper stage and the lander arrangement. Because, of course, we don't want to rely on these little connections when we got big rockets at either end. Alright, so I'm going to go off camera for a minute here, put the launch vehicle on underneath this, and we'll see if we can't get this into space. Get the lander set up on top of the command module once we're in orbit, and head over to the moon. Alright, so here we are on the launch pad, which has been a few seconds for you and about 15 minutes for me as I started second guessing some things. The basic launch vehicle looks a lot like the one from our previous moon mission, so I won't go into that in too much detail. You'll see how it works. See, I modified the lander a little bit. I put this extra fuel tank in place of the single Science Junior, and I put 2 Science Juniors. I also added some batteries, as well as some batteries and solar panels to the command module, as well as a headlight, because if we end up having to do this docking operation in the shadow of Kerbal, it's a very useful thing to have, a headlight. Of course, our opening panels might block it a little bit, but it still will be better than nothing. And I added, so we could do some orbital science around the moon perhaps, 2 mystery goo containers to the command module, so they won't feel totally left out. I also put a couple of ladder pieces next to them so that we can grab onto them while we're doing our science recovery in the latter stages of the mission. Not really necessary, but I think it's a nice touch. In any case, hopefully this will all stay together. You see I got it all nice and strutted all up in the middle. And now the struts here and all that will break as we break the disconnects in between them. So, and before I do that, hopefully this will help them, the various stages, stay together. Alright, so we're going to go to the map, get set up here, show that. I'm going to go ahead and just set the moon as my target so that I can see my inclination as I'm maneuvering. And now we're going to see if this thing can actually make orbit. Now, even with all the extra stuff, I think this isn't too much heavier than we previously got into orbit with this, with all kinds of fuel left. So I think it should be able to do it. The only question is if it's going to go noodly in the middle and break. I do have quite a few struts holding it together, so we'll see. Oh, that would have been unfortunate. I'm glad I caught that before I started the launch. Yes, we want the clamps to release as we fire the engines, not before we fire the engines. Alright, 3, 2, 1, blast off. Whoa. Okay. Taking off a little bit slower. This must be heavier than that previous moon mission was. But moving up nicely. Just go full throttle. No reason to screw around, I guess. As you see, we've also changed the crew out for Ori, Ordos, and Balgar Kerman. And they all appear to be of the perspective of just what we're doing here. Looks a lot smaller like this. Oh, lose the stage. There we go. Bye-bye stage. So you kind of fall away in slow motion there when you're zoomed out. We're not picking up speed terribly fast, which is a little concerning. Well, we'll just push ahead. Hope for the best. Worst case is they get stranded on the moon and we get the excitement of sending them a rescue mission or something. Although I guess they could also be stranded as they attempt to come back or something like that, which would make for a more tedious and less interesting rescue mission. We're thinking positive. Everything's going to work great. Right? Sure. We'll go with that. Oh, it occurred to me I should have maybe have tested my group buttons that I set up to deploy my solar panels, but oh well, we'll have to test it on orbit. We're not doing it in the atmosphere, they'll just rip off and we'll lose them. Alright, let's get this settled in before we lose this next stage. Coming up right now. Alright, so now that we've started our gravity turn, let's see what we're looking like. It says we're a little bit off our inclination. I'm not too worried about that. We'll correct that as we go. We're catching up on our apoapsis, which is not good. Hopefully we'll start pushing that away from us. Let's throttle back up to 100. I don't know why I throttled it down. Oh, this is so slow. I want my mainsail engines. Alright, one bit of science at a time. Oh, okay, now we're pushing our apoapsis away from us. Yeah, I see the trails going way out to the side there as we're desperately struggling to build up some height, build up some altitude. Yeah, the whole crew's freaking out too. You know what? You guys are not going on the first interplanetary mission. We need to find some crewmen who don't freak out the first sign of danger. This is not the way proper Kerbonauts should behave. Except for Bob. He makes it work for him, I guess. He's screaming the whole time. He still makes beautiful landings. Except for last time. So that's what happens when you let Jeb fly. Nerves of steel, but he's not always paying attention. Alright. We're getting somewhere. We're out of we're out into the ionosphere now, so I'm just going to lay it all the way down. How's our inclination look? We're still a little bit over a degree off. I'm really just, I'll be happy if I make orbit with this. We can correct, or just live with the orbital inclination problem. I'm surprised that this held together as well. I was really expecting to see the top end go all kind of wobbly on us. But all those struts must have made the difference and kept things nice and solid. Oh, man. Now it's going slow. Now that we're down to this last skipper engine. Alright, and that's coming down a little bit for us, too. 1 degree will get us to lunar orbit at least. Alright, looks like we are going to make orbit, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. Unlike the previous mission, I don't think this stage is going to do as good for us in the transfer, simply because our vehicle that we're trying to transfer is heavier. However, the command module should be able to act itself as the transfer stage, which is of course the whole idea of this, Apollo type arrangement. Because then we're only taking this fairly lightweight vehicle down to the lunar surface. Then it comes back up, rendezvous, and this fuel wasn't used at all for the landing or the liftoff. And then any fuel we may have left in this will just transfer back to the command module for the return trip. Pow. Ooh. Oh, here, let's see what our headlight looks like. Pink. Not super impressive when it's not shining on anything. Okay, that's enough of that. Oh, okay, we're in space, so I can actually afford to fast forward just a little bit. And our burn, we'll do it at about 24 seconds, I suppose. Oh, damn it, I missed it. Looked away for just a second. Just checking out the crew still freaking out down there. Alright. Yeah, this will work nicely though. So I think what I'll end up doing in this episode, we have the initial building stage, you've got the launch. What I'll do is I'll do the docking, get the command the command module, whatever, attach it to the lander, and then maybe do my transfer burn, and then we'll do the mooner insertion and landing in episode 9, I think it will be. Yes, this is 8. So we'll do the initial stages in 8, we'll land in 9, and we'll celebrate in 10 as we attempt to build our first interplanetary vehicle. You know, knock on wood, so we can get enough science from this. So we'll get the atomic engine, and if we're lucky, we'll have enough to unlock a few extra sensors and things. Or at least that seismic sensor. I want to get set up here, since I have time in no particular rush to take care of this inclination problem. It's not even much of a problem. But the closer I am to 0, will make things a little bit easier down the road. Mostly because if I'm close to a moon equatorial orbit, it'll be easier to bring the lander up from the surface and rendezvous it with the command pod. If you've got highly inclined orbits around a body and you want to go up and, you know, conduct your rendezvous maneuvers, they become a lot more tricky when you have to, you know, launch from an equatorial orbit or near equatorial launch site rather, to meet up with an inclined orbit, because you have to launch at a certain time or you're going to be really inefficient. I mean, you don't have to. It's going to be way easier if you do, though. So timing is key, and if you launch up at, you know, that angle and try to match with it, you don't have to do an, you know, a expensive and inefficient orbital inclination change maneuver. So we'll just get this set up, nice quick burst. And as I was saying, we shouldn't really need this stage for transfer. We'll use it, I'm not going to throw it away until it's burned out, basically. But we shouldn't need it to get to the moon and back. And cut. There we go. 0. Excellent. Just what I'm going for. Alright. And we could try to do this dock maneuver in the dark, but the hell with that. Since we're close to dawn anyway, we're just going to bring it around. That'll let you see what's going on better, too. Yeah, that's right. I'm not doing it because I don't like docking in the dark. I'm doing it so you can see. Yeah, that's what's happening. Okay, now before I do this here, let me roll this around so I can see the door of my lander. Because I think what I want to do is I want to send somebody over to the lander just so that I can control this portion of the rocket if I need to. Because I got no computer systems on there. Let's do a quick save just in case we get a EVA glitch like we did before. Whoa, what the hell? We got EVA glitches. Where is he? There he is. Okay. If for some reason we do need to do a maneuver with that part of the rocket, we need a crew over there. We could have put a an unmanned pod or a probe on it, but we got 3 crews, so we'll just send one over. And grab and board. All right. So now Lori, I guess, is in his little lander vehicle. And now we got 2 different command pods active, so we're going to make sure we got control from here set on this vehicle. And now we're going to have to play some games, and we're not going to be able to use the staging here, so we're going to have to do some manual disconnecting. So we're going to go ahead and decouple this, which will let the command vehicle float free. And we're just going to give it a little burst of our RCS fuel to get it separated. That's it. We're going to go ahead and open the docking shield. Bing. And now we're going to switch back to the other vehicle, because what I want to do is I want to turn this off to the side a little bit. Just like that. Before I disconnect this leftover bit. That way it won't be in the way as I try to bring that around and dock it again. So we'll just decouple that. Because there's no ejection force there, it's just going to sort of float away. For some reason it transferred control to the bit that I disconnected. Right, that's what I wanted. Yeah, I wanted to control that sleeve. Okay, thank you, Kerbal Space Program. So we're just going to get this pointed back south, because we know that's what we were oriented when we disconnected, which means I can just turn the other one due north and dock back up with it, which is what I will go ahead and do. Now we actually don't need the RCS for the turn maneuver. And then go ahead and I'm going to set this docking port as my target. Alright. So now here's the part where I said before is the patting your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. Turn the fine controls on, which will make this way easier. We're just going to walk this back in to the main vehicle, nice and slow. I know this isn't super exciting, but we really don't want to take any chances with this. It's a great way to ruin the entire mission here if we come in too fast or something. Leaving fast forward just a bit. Alright, it says 3.8 meters now, so we're going to retake control. Just trying to keep the yellow velocity vector pointed at the purple target vector, and we have a good connect there. Alright, now, one thing that we have to remain aware of, since I want to use the fuel that's remaining in this, I'm not going to disconnect it yet. But now our main capsule is facing the wrong way. So, fortunately, we still have a command pod, a capsule, that's facing the right way. So we can go ahead and use that to fly from to set at our maneuver nodes. Because if we try to fly from the command module capsule, the 3-man capsule, of course we'd end up going in the wrong direction. We'd end up removing energy instead of adding it. So I got to reset the moon as the target. Because of course when I got out and changed the maneuver, it messed it up. Okay. We're going to go ahead and plot our intercept. Something like that. Alright. I'll make sure we're coming up behind it. There we go. Now we're coming up behind it. At 100, that'll be just fine. We'll adjust that on the fly. There we go. So let's go ahead and do this burn. Alright, so let me make sure I'm controlling from here. Control from here. I see my electric charge is going down. Let's do something about that. Control group 1. Deploy! Oh, what? This one not get linked to the group? Oh, that's kind of annoying. I wonder how that happened. No, whatever. That'll take care of our electric charge problems. Alright, so let's get this turned and find our maneuver node. Yeah, I think I'm going the wrong way. Probably had to point down into the ground, basically, from my current position. Yep. I should have known better. Waste of time. Because as you see, of course, the burn is going to be in that direction. From our current position, that's into the planet. Yep, sure enough, there it is. Whoa! Whoa! Do I still have flight control on? No, I don't. It's just heavy. Whoa, hey, come on! This is why we started this turn well before the node. Exciting footage as I chase my little blue maneuver around. So this isn't quite the way the Apollo mission worked. I guess I could have done my transfer burn and then flipped around and done this. That might have been a little easier. The only thing we really have to worry about now is now we don't have all those nice structural connections. So we'll just have to, I think I'll burn early in the hopes that I can use my throttle at less than full. You see now that I'm relying on this docking point as my structural connection between these. I don't want to stress it too much. Now this engine's not super powerful. If this were a mainsail engine, I'd be really concerned about tearing this vehicle in half. Which is the other reason I should have waited to do that flip around, reconnect maneuver. But it's too late now. All the structure connections are broken, so we're going forward, one way or the other. I guess I could jump back to that quick save, but I don't really want to operate that way. Because there's no save and load options in real life. Although that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Undo some of those mistakes. Just save before you go into a meeting at work, so curse everybody out and then reload. It'd be satisfying sometimes. But I digress. Alright, so we're going to light at about a minute and go to about 60% throttle and see what that does for us. And hope that nothing breaks. So let's do a bit of a test here and we'll start working this up gradually. Alright, it's holding pretty steady. Yeah, we'll try and sit it right about there. So as long as we don't maneuver too much while we're burning like this, it looks like we'll be okay. Oh, there's the debris. Bye-bye, debris. You will be in orbit forever, or until something crashes into you. That's one thing I've never had happen in this game. I'll have a later vehicle crash into a piece of space debris. The odds are, quite literally astronomical. But it is theoretically possible, and it would be a very unfortunate way to lose a mission, by running into some giant leftover stage from a previous mission. I'm feeling pretty good about this now, so I'm actually going to throttle it up. Since we're kind of getting behind our burn schedule a little bit. Now, of course, this isn't quite like the actual Apollo missions. I mean, the bodies in Kerbal Space Program are quite a bit closer to each other than in real life. For example, the moon missions in real life took, a matter of days. And the way we do this, you know, in Kerbal Space Program, it's a matter of a few hours there and a few hours back. And that's a way of, you know, also making the game a little more accessible and simplifying some of the engineering challenges of building vehicles to go to the other planets, because when they're not as far away, you don't need as much fuel. It's a little easier to plot your maneuvers, that sort of thing. Alright, so now my maneuver node is kind of getting in my way, so I'm going to get rid of it and just fly this manually in to bring this in a little bit closer, refine our intercept. See, if we didn't do anything, this would actually give us a gravity boost and shoot us out. Shoot us out into the great beyond. So we want to avoid that. That would be fairly disastrous. Okay, I've actually reached a point where further burning is just going to make that worse. We can adjust that as we enter. After the moon encounter, we can drop that down and make corrections at that time. But I think this has stretched on long enough, and I will do my landing and all that in the next episode. So thank you for watching. This is Southern Wolverine from Kerbal Orbit, signing off.